I'm trying to get a camera that shows something interesting.
It's not.
Let's see, zoom out. Oh, come on. Why is it even showing that? See, it's over there. Okay. Okay, testing. Okay, looks like they can hear me. We've got 9 people on right now.
So they see you or the PowerPoint?
They see the PowerPoint, and then there's just a little box that shows that in the upper corner. Yeah. Speaker, whoever's speaking, it shows in the.
So the video now, they have a small.
Yeah, this video is just tiny little. The PowerPoint's the big one. Yeah. As soon as I share my screen. Right now, this is the big one.
Yeah. The share the same way.
Yeah, it's the same as normal. Mm-hmm. Okay, shall we start? Welcome. I'm glad we have a little audience, so I don't have to speak to an empty room. Welcome, those of you that are online. Maybe just give me a thumbs up or something in the chat. Let me know you can hear me. Okay, good. Let me get this chat. So please, if you have questions and you're on Zoom, you can put them in the chat. I just opened the window off screen so I can see. If you type a question, you can also say the question out loud. I'm not sure if our speakers are working, but we can try them. And of course, those of you that are here, you're more than welcome to ask questions. So have you had a chance to look at the video that Dr. Jung and I made? So that's really kind of what we would do first day of class. So if you haven't looked at that video, please look at it. Talks about the syllabus and the assignments. You probably notice that we have lots of assignments in this class, but no exams. So that's kind of nice. I think you'll notice as we go through the semester that there are a lot of things to do, but none of it is very hard. So this is not a class that I think you'll be super stressed in, but there are, I mean, every week you're going to be doing some assignments. So you just got to stay up on the many assignments. But again, none of them are going to be super challenging or anything like that. So we missed Tuesday's lecture, and I have Tuesday's lecture up on the screen right now. I just want to go over 2 slides from that. I encourage you to go through this because I think there's some good things in here about the, how to come up with ideas for creative stuff. There's an article also that I shared just below these lecture slides on Canvas. It's an article that my PhD supervisor shared with me when I started grad school, because grad school is a creative process. And he really liked that. And I read it and I thought it was really good. It just outlines, the different stages of the creative process. And as soon as you read it, you'll probably recognize those steps that you've gone through in your own life. But one thing that it does really well is it brings to the front of your mind what you're doing when you are creative, so that you can put yourself in those situations to come up with those ideas that are new. So, take a look at it. Like I said, it's just a separate PDF file there right under the lecture slides. But the two slides that I want to go through, one of them is up here. And that is this idea that I think is counterintuitive. I think we probably most often hear that we want to put together a team that's really diverse so that it can come up with really creative, cool ideas. But there's all sorts of research in the social sciences that shows that people can generate better ideas by themselves. And even if they do some sort of measure of good ideas, people can come up with more good ideas on their own than they do in a group. And so what we do in this class is, and what is encouraged, you do want to have a diverse group. So diverse groups are going to create really cool stuff. But when you're starting out, what you want to do is be separate. And then you come together later. So what you'll want to do this first week of class is just start to think about on your own what types of products you want to develop. And in a normal year, we would have a couple weeks to gear up, and also your product development project would be under a narrow topic. But we're not doing that this year. Anything, you can do whatever you want. So in some ways that's nice, and in other ways it's much more difficult because you don't have anything to focus on. But I encourage you just to think about what you like. Think about what you would like to have that you can't find anywhere, what you would like to work on and research. And then start to think of some ideas of what you might do for a new product. And so that's what you'll do on your own for this week. And then next week, when you meet for lab, that lab is called Converge Ideas, or Convergent Thinking. And so that is when you take all of these ideas that each member of the group has come up with, and you put them together. So you need to think of some ideas on your own ahead of time that you can put together. So this week is the divergent part, coming up with lots of different ideas. Whether or not you think they make sense or if they're good ideas, you just come up with some ideas of things you think are interesting. And then next week, you'll just come together with your group and you'll share your ideas, share your thoughts. And then the converge part is kind of, then you start to eliminate some that, maybe aren't feasible, or you don't, the group doesn't really want to work on them. And then you can come up with a narrower list of ideas. So those are just the two slides I wanted to go through from the lecture on Tuesday. Like I mentioned, there's some good stuff in there, so you can take a look at the slides. You can take a look at the article and kind of think about your own life and where you're the most creative, where you often solve your own problems that you have in your life. So, any questions so far? Okay, I don't see any online or in the room. So let's go ahead and, and I've seen that most people have signed up for groups already. If you haven't done that, please do that. Things are going along well in that area. So today, let's talk about a broad picture of the product development process, steps that you go through to develop a new food product. So just a little bit of statistics here. I remember growing up, that it didn't seem like there were lots of new products. It seems today that there's a lot more than there used to be. And that is not just my perception, it's actually true. There's roughly twice as many new products released each year now than there were 20 years ago. And that is because companies have really realized that creating new products is how they can stay relevant. And so that's why we have now, more than one flavor of Oreo, more than one, more than just mint gum, all sorts of different new things. When you look at the different food categories, you see most of the new products are beverages and snacks, the ones on the bottom there. Beverages are really convenient for companies because they're as far as profit margin, beverages have the highest profit margin of pretty much any other food. It's mostly water and not very many other ingredients, and so they can make a little bit more money for each item that's sold. But yeah, most of these new products are in those categories. Far fewer in the, the kind of less exciting ones, soup, baby food, those kinds of things, have far fewer new products. In past years in this class, I would say, 90% probably of products that students develop are in the snacks category. So, well, snacks or desserts, I guess you can probably kind of lump those together. Those seem to be the things that people choose to work on. Here is a graph showing how many different food products there are in the world. And I just put 1 million, a lot. This graph is actually not to scale. That 1 million bar should be even much higher. But I wanted to be able to see some of these other bars just for comparison. In a regular supermarket, those are typically going to have 50,000 different products. And the average family typically consumes or purchases on a regular basis 150 items. And so if you're working for a food company, what you are trying to do is get a consumer to pick your product from among 50,000, and they're only going to pick 150 of those. And so that's pretty challenging. The other thing that you need to do is you need consumers to pick your new products and not replace them with your old products, but replace them with, say, a competitor's old product, or just not replace it at all, just pick up a whole new product. So, if you're developing like a line extension, new flavor of something, you can keep customers, but rarely do you pick up new customers because they typically, instead of buying original, now they're going to buy the new flavor and not the original anymore. So it's challenging. Most products do fail. About half of new products are going to fail. in the first 2 years. And this is generous. This includes things like line extensions, which are just, new flavors or new imaginations of a product that already exists. And if you include just new products, it's something like 75 to 90% of those products fail. So definitely don't have statistics on your side when you're developing these products. But yeah, it can be very gratifying when these products do become successful. So these two quotes outline why we have twice as many new products as we did 20 years ago. So the first one, in the past 5 years, new products represented nearly half of all brands and more than half of growth. So I think, to me, that's a little bit unbelievable that products that didn't exist 5 years ago are making up 50% of these companies' profits. So really important to have new products coming out, have food scientists working in product development to keep companies relevant. On a little side note, I guess, product developers don't actually make any money for the company, right? They're making stuff that the company doesn't sell yet. Perhaps in the future they will, but they're making stuff that is only costing the company money. Their salary, all of the expenses for developing the product, all the expenses for running sensory evaluation on the product, things like that. It's all expense and they don't make any money. So when economies get bad, this sometimes is the thing that gets cut. But companies that are smart don't cut it, because if they cut it, then they lose relevancy and they lose products, they lose profit in the future. So really important to keep product development around, even if it's not making money directly. I like this slide a lot. We often spend a good amount of time discussing these different things. It's hard to discuss with a small group and online and stuff, but it's always fun to look at these products and guess or think about why they failed and what went wrong, and it helps to understand maybe what we can avoid in the future. So all these products here, these existed at one time but don't anymore. So maybe I'll just pull out a few of them. If we look at, well, let's look at these swoops down here in the bottom corner, or bottom part here. Let me get my laser pointer. So here. So if you look at that picture on the front, has anybody, you seen this product? Are you familiar with this product? So when you look at the picture, what does it remind you of? Pringles. Exactly. So these look like chocolate-covered potato chips, right? That's not what they are. They're just pieces of chocolate shaped like Pringles. But if you're a consumer and you see this, you think these are chocolate-covered potato chips, which may or may not sound good to you. I mean, to me, it doesn't sound good. But I think maybe some people might think, oh, that's going to be fun. Let's try that. And then they buy it, and it's not that. And so they're disappointed. They don't buy it again. Or people just look at that and think, I don't like chocolate covered potato chips, and so they don't buy it. And so, you have to look at sometimes I feel like, you have to step back and just take an objective look at these products and decide, is that something that makes sense? One right next to it, this breakfast mates. This one's really interesting because, it's got a little box of cereal, a spoon, some milk, all together in a container. So you can, have your cereal wherever. So this one, maybe is a convenient idea. What are some problems that you envision with this type of product? Feel free to chime in online too. So this is stored on the shelf. So it's not sold in the refrigerator, and that's important because this is supposed to be a convenient thing that you can just take anywhere. So what's the problem with that? Well, what do you have, if you have to put milk in there, what do you have to do to that milk to make it safe? Well, you could do dry milk, yeah. This wasn't dry milk, this was UHT milk. If you remember, hopefully you remember from other classes, right? Ultra high temperature pasteurized milk and then put into a sterile container. So yeah, it comes in one of those Tetra Pak containers like the juice boxes, but it's got milk inside. Has anybody had milk in a Tetra Pak container like that, just off the shelf? I suspect, well, I don't know, China. A lot of our students I know are in China. Maybe it's something that they have there, I don't know. I know in many of the Latin American countries, drinking UHT milk is a normal thing. You can rarely get fresh milk. But if you've ever had it before, it tastes completely different from just regular pasteurized milk. And I would say it's a very, very, very awful different flavor. For those of us that are used to drinking just pasteurized milk. So you've got this milk in here that has this terrible off flavor. Also, people are used to eating cereal with cold milk on it, not with room temperature milk. And then the last thing, the commercial for this, and it would be, you could go online and find the commercial for it probably, but the commercial for it features kids sneaking downstairs on a Saturday morning and getting their cereal all by themselves. So the parents can just stay in bed. And the reality was that the milk container, it was really difficult to open, and kids had a really hard time opening it. So they couldn't actually do what it showed in the commercial. So lots of silly things with that product. Yeah, I love talking about these. Some of these other ones, like I don't know about this one, Cheetos lip balm. I think that's kind of disgusting. Down here, this Lifesavers drink, what does that bring to your mind? You look at the picture, what do you think? I mean, to me, I think this is a melted Lifesaver that I drink, right? Which I don't want to do that. I don't want to drink a Lifesaver. So it seems too sweet. So some of these things are interesting. We could go into some fun stories on all of those. But we got to move on. lots of different types of product development. So that one at the very top, this is what most of us think of when we think of product development. Developing a product that doesn't exist now. Completely new product. Really innovative, something that doesn't exist at all. And I have two examples there. And for us now, I mean, these are not interesting. They've been around. But in their day, when they came out, they were really, really innovative products. And so that's what we think of. We think of, oh, we're going to develop something that's never been done before, no one's ever thought of it before, going to be brand new, and everybody's going to love it. But in fact, even in real life, if you're a product developer, rarely are you working on that. Most of the time, you're going to be working on one of these other aspects of product development. So, for instance, maybe you're taking a product that is available, say, at a really fancy restaurant, or it's available at a not fancy restaurant like Taco Bell, you know, or something like that where consumers really like this product. You know, Hidden Valley Ranch is a good example, just a small restaurant where that salad dressing was really popular. And so the owner of that restaurant or Taco Bell will partner with a food company to develop a version of that product so that it can be sold in the grocery store. So that's something that a product developer would work on. What are the challenges that they face taking a salad dressing like Hidden Valley Ranch that's made from fresh ingredients on small scale, served within a week of being made, to something that's going to go to the grocery store, be sold in a bottle, sit on the shelf for a week or 2 or 4 weeks, and then the consumer is going to take it home, and it's going to sit on the consumer shelf for a few weeks, and then they're going to open it, and they're going to start using it. And it's got to be as similar as possible to that one that they had at the restaurant. Line extensions. That's what you're going to work on this week. But that's just new flavors, new colors, new shapes of an existing product. The fourth one there is formulation or process change. This is stealth product development. So these kinds of things represent a lot of time for the product developer. This is going to keep those product developers in their job for a long time, which is changing the formulation without changing the product at all. This is really challenging, but a good example is changing to trans-free shortening. So a couple of years ago, not too long ago, 2016, I think, when FDA said partially hydrogenated oil is an adulterant in food. You know, basically everything had that in it. And so almost every product that you see in the grocery store now has been reformulated to contain trans-free shortening, and hopefully nobody noticed. But that was a big job for product developers. I don't remember the number, but I'll just throw something out there. It was something on the order of 100,000 man-hours it took to take the containing shortening out of Oreos and put in trans-free shortening. 100,000 hours to do that. So changing the processing, changing from batch to continuous. So you make Ready Whip, and you make it in a batch, a kettle. It gets cooked and then put into the bottles. Now the company wants to make it quicker, and they're going to switch to a continuous process. How do you get those same flavor notes in a continuous process that you would normally get in a batch process? And then finally, maybe most common is just removing expensive ingredients. So you have flavors or gums or something like that become too expensive. And so your company will purchase those flavors or those gums maybe from another supplier, but the functionality of those products is a little bit different. So it has to be reformulated so that it will match the original product. Conversion would be just new packaging, shape, type, something like Go-Gurt, where they take, instead of the yogurt being in a tub, now it's in a tube. Clones, so this is like the store brand of different foods, store brand Oreos, store brand potato chips, and then just seasonal items. So lots of different aspects besides just what we normally think about with product development. Okay, so here's the different steps. I need to make sure to give myself at least 10 minutes at the end to talk about your case study. But first step is to define the opportunity. This is the market research that you will participate in along with the marketing group at a company. In phase 2, that's really where the product developer lives and spends most of their time. That's where the product is actually developed. And then the last stage would be product launch. This is the flow, the stage gate flow, which is the steps for product development that most companies, I think, use this or something similar to this. So it has these 5 stages where first you have just, discovering the idea. And then you have to go through these different gates to pass through to the different stages. And the gates are monitored or controlled by management. And so the product developer would pitch an idea to management. And if management says that's a good idea, then you can proceed to the next stage. So you'll work on scoping, you'll work on looking at the market and assessing the market value of this product. And then you would present it again to management. And they can say yay or nay. And if they say yes, then you can go on to stage 2 and do the business case. So that's kind of how that stage gate system works. And it just shows you how many gates you have to go through, I guess. How many presentations you have to make in order to finally get to the product that gets launched in the store. So for a typical product, this is kind of a timeline that you might see. It varies a lot. So don't don't hold me to this time schedule. If you are taking frosted Pop-Tarts and putting new colors of sprinkles on the top, obviously that's not going to take you a year to do that. But if you are coming up with something that is completely innovative, it may take 2 years or even 3 years to develop that product. So this is kind of an average, but it gives you an idea about what the steps to go through and kind of how long each one will take. The first 5 here, or 4, the first 4, that's typically what we do in this class. We do a little bit of research to develop or to assess the market of the product. then we do some development of the product, and then do some evaluation of the product, and then present it. So that the first 9 weeks of that would be what we typically do in this class. And then everything after that, we don't ever cover that because we can't. But those things are, you see, taking most of the time. So a lot of times these products are really developed in a very short window of time. So you have to be very on your toes, you have to be prepared, you have to be ready, you have to plan well, because even though a product may take 2 or 3 years to develop, the time that you as a product developer have to take an idea and make something physical or tangible that people can taste is much shorter than that, just a few weeks typically at the most. Okay, so the discovery part is market research. We have separate activities for that, so I don't go into those here. But I will say that product developers do this. They didn't used to do this. Used to be, that's marketing that does that. I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, I mean, they do that now. And it's an important part of the product developer's job now. And so these are some of the questions that you would ask during that scoping process. If you're the product developer, why would the consumer buy this product? What consumers would buy this product? And so on. What gap in the market is this product meant to fill? You know, if you look at the store and you see that there's 50 different kinds of cookies and you want to develop a new one, how are you going to fit into that market? It seems pretty full already. How are you going to fit in there and be successful? And then why would the company commit funds to do this? During the scoping process, you really do want to think about 4 characteristics of your product. And I call these the abilities, just because that's how they all end. But if you ask yourself, how desirable is this product? Or do consumers want it? So hopefully the answer is yes, but the product should be desirable. Is it worth making? So that's just asking, is it possible for us to make money on this product? So if I have a great idea, but its ingredients are going to be too expensive, and we're not going to be able to charge that much for this product, then it's not going to be viable. So is there a possibility that we can make money on this? On the other side, is it feasible? So can we make it? Say, can we make it on the existing equipment that we have? Or do we have to buy new equipment to make it? If we have to buy new equipment to make it, do we have justification for buying that? And then the last one is suitability, which I think is really one that is overlooked. And that is, you know, does it fit our company's image to make this product? So, you know, if you're Arm & Hammer baking soda and you want to come up with a line of air fresheners, that fits the company's image because people have this idea that baking soda can freshen the air, it absorbs odors and stuff like that. If you're a toothpaste company, Colgate, you know, you may think about getting into like gum, right? You may start making gum, but you're not going to start making frozen dinners. So everybody's going to think these frozen dinners taste like toothpaste, even if they're perfectly normal frozen dinners. So these are the kinds of things that you want to think about with that suitability. And in fact, Colgate has tried to make frozen dinners, and it was a failure. So, these are the kinds of things you want to think about. All right, so product developers need to be thinking about these kinds of things. So the first bullet there, how much is it going to cost to develop this product? So you got to pay your salary, you got to pay for all the development costs. You need to pay for scale-up costs, production, first production costs, and consumer testing costs. So you have to put all those down to let management know how much this is going to cost, and then you can be successful. You want to evaluate how much raw materials for this product might cost, volume of sales anticipated, raw material supplier ingredients. I have a goat there to remind me about many years ago, there was a group in this class that developed a goat milk yogurt. Nice product. Their final presentation, they had in there that this product was going to be distributed throughout the United States, and that they would have 1 million units sold in every certain period of time, which sounds really good, that this product is going to be really successful. What do you think is the issue with that? Not enough goats? That's exactly right. Where are they going to get all that goat milk to make that much yogurt to have that kind of sales? So they don't want to, they can't propose that they're going to have that kind of volume unless they can develop that supply chain themselves. So those are the kinds of things that you have to think about ahead of time. Some of these ingredients, can I even get it? One of the, are you guys familiar with Fiber One bars and cereals and snacks from General Mills? So Fiber One, you know what the major fiber is in there? Those Fiber One bars, they have something called chicory root extract in them. That's where the fiber comes from. And for several years before those products came out, General Mills had to invent or develop their own supply chain for that ingredient, because that ingredient basically was not available. It was available very small quantities. And their General Mills, they had to, they distribute stuff all over, and these Fiber One things use a lot of that ingredient. So they had to, just like with this goat milk, they had to invent or come up with that whole supply chain before that product could be released. So that's something that the product developer has to initiate and be aware of things like that that may occur if this product is successful. Okay, next stage is stage 3, which is development. And that is the place where the product developer shines, spends most of their time. So during this stage, product developer needs to understand the functionality of each ingredient in a formulation, why it's there, what it does, and what its optimal level is. They also need to initiate product stability testing. So you may be surprised to learn that product shelf life testing will often begin on the very earliest versions of a product. So not necessarily on the finished product, but on something that's very rough, just to get an idea of what its shelf life will be. So that needs to occur very early on. Design and execute sensory tests. Develop products that meet business goals for quality, cost, and timing. And then, define the formula. That's your output. So here's the flow of how things go. Initial trials will develop prototypes, and then you'll screen those prototypes and come up with some smaller number of prototypes, and then screen those again, and then have some acceptable prototypes, and then some market testing to optimize different ingredients. At this point, just making small tweaks to the formulation. You have your optimum prototype, you take it to scale up, run it and produce it on plant scale equipment, and then final prototype. So where do you start? I mean, typically you start with experience, but if you have limited experience, then first you can just define what type it is. What type of product development project am I doing? And if I'm doing any number of those bullets except for the first one, then I can start with an existing formulation or an existing something out there. So go to the store, go to cookbooks, look at ingredient statements, look at nutrition facts panels, look at the internet, see what you can find on this type of product. And then evaluate and tabulate properties of the products that are similar, that are available out there. So look at ingredient statements and pay attention to where that product is in the store, how it's sold, how it's packaged, and so on. Let's skip here. I just realized we just have 5 more minutes. So let's go ahead and talk about the assignment for this week. So each assignment that you have is at least, we have 10 of these case studies throughout the semester. And Dr. Jung and I have completed about 6 of them. And so far, they all have a similar format. They all are formatted like this. So you have an Excel file that's available in the assignment, and they'll all look similar to this. So for the first one, you have 2 things that you'll do. Each one is on a different sheet. So you see there's 2 sheets down here, one unit conversion, and then the other sheet is line extension. So make sure that you look at both sheets. There's some instructions there. The most important instruction is the one on line 5 and 6, I guess, telling you what the different colors mean. Okay, so this first task you're going to do is unit conversion. So typically when you look at a recipe, it is going to be in volumes. 1/2 cup of butter, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and so on. But as a product developer, you can't work in volumes. You must work in weights, because that is how you're going to be able to express your formula and also to scale it up, how it's going to be produced in the plant. So the very first step, once you have a recipe that you like, is to convert it to weights. So in those yellow boxes, you will put in numbers for how much each of those things weighs. You can get those numbers in the lecture. I have some of them here in the lecture. But you can also get them online. It's really, really easy to just go online and say, you know, how much does 1 cup of butter weigh? Or how much does 1 cup of sugar weigh? And there will be a number, and you can put that number in here. So you can do that for the sugar cookies and for the muffins here. And then these blue boxes, this is where you're going to put in an equation. So, you know, for this one, you're just going to put in that this is the sum of, you know, this spot. Okay? So in the blue boxes, what you need to have in there is an equation to do the calculation for these different cells. So how am I going to take this weight and convert it to a percentage of that formulation? And then how am I going to take that percentage and turn it into a batch that weighs exactly 1 pound? So in those blue boxes, you have to put in the equation. That is how the TA is going to know if you did those calculations correctly. So we don't want you to put in the numbers there. We want you to put in the equation so we can check your equation, make sure it's right. So, and same thing down here. So all you have to do on that first one is look up those weights and then do a little bit of calculation to make your batch sizes match. And then on the line extension sheet, this is where you get to be creative. So we have this premise that you're at a company and you make these sugar cookies and you make these muffins, but now you want to make some new versions of these. And so you can just say whatever you want here. You know, you can do something simple, like just instead of sugar cookies plain, I'm going to put some cinnamon in them. Or I'm going to put some cocoa powder in them. Just real simple. Or you can be more elaborate. You can make them, you know, have a filling or have layers or have, you know, different colors in them or different flavors and stuff, whatever. So you can make savory ones. So you can really do whatever you want. But put down what you would imagine that formulation would be. So you would look at the original formulation and you would tweak it to make it what you want. So, you know, if you're going to make a savory cookie, you know, just decrease the sugar a lot. Put in some herbs or something. Put in some spices to make it have some flavor. Look up online, how much does 1 teaspoon of basil weigh? Because I think I want to put in a teaspoon of basil instead, and you can put that in. Same thing for the muffin. Come up with a product name, something catchy, and a product description. In that description, you want to describe the characteristics of that product that you envision they will be. Is it going to be soft? Is it going to be crunchy? Is it going to be red? Is it going to be 5 inches wide? Whatever you have in mind. Also put your target market. Who's going to buy this product? Who are you trying to capture? And then processing instructions. Be specific here. So you might need to look up some recipes for sugar cookies if you're not familiar with making those, and just see how those are made and put those instructions in here. And then change them a little bit if you think they need to be changed. But you do want to have all the steps in there, because when the TAs select a few of these to make, they're going to follow those steps, and if you've missed steps, they're not going to come up with something good. So, and you'll lose points on the case study. So put the steps in there, things like, how long are we going to mix? Is it going to be 30 seconds or a minute? If we're going to roll them out, how thick do they need to be rolled out? Is it going to be 7/10 of a centimeter, or is it going to be a full centimeter? Temperature of the oven, time, baking, and so on. These are all, you're going to make up all these things, but if you put them in there, that's the important thing. So put them in there and then try and get, to the best of your ability, something that's going to make sense. So, the first part's real easy. The second part is also easy, but, this is where you have a chance to think a little bit about what you might like to put in there. You want it to be really different, or you can just make it simple. If you want to just put a little bit of almond extract or something in them, that's fine too. So whatever you want. But that is your first assignment, due in 1 week. And you do this alone, so each person turn it in separately. All right, any questions? We're already a couple minutes over, but thanks for your attention. And didn't get through the lecture. I am not at all surprised. We'll get to it at some other time. So on Tuesday, we'll start talking about market research. Your first task as a group is going to be to come up with a general idea of what you want to develop, and then you're going to be developing a survey to survey your friends and see how they answer those questions, so you can get some information about what you're going to develop. Because, final comment, when you're a product developer, you are developing new food products for everybody else, not for you. So things that you like may not be that important. More important is what everybody else likes. So you want to get information from them. Any last things? All right, thanks everyone. I hope we have a good semester. I think it will be a good one given our circumstances, at least. It's going to be as good as we can make it. I hope it's fun. I will see everybody next week on Tuesday.